हेलो एवरीवन। मैं गौरव हूँ और हम अभी स्टॉकहोम में हैं, स्वीडन में, म्यूज़ियम ऑफ एंशंट एंटीक्स, इट इज़ ईस्टर्न एशियन म्यूज़ियम ऑफ एंशंट एंटीक्स में यंग कनेक्टर्स ऑफ फ्यूचर प्रोग्राम के चलते यहाँ आना हुआ और कुछ बहुत ज़बरदस्त लोगों से मिलना हो रहा है। उनमें से दो लोग हैं जिनसे आज हम बात करेंगे और जस्ट टू स्विच इन इंग्लिश so that it's they also understand that I'm praising them and I get some coffee after this. So so I was saying that I just got to meet two awesome people here, multiple awesome people here. Out of them, I'm fortunate to speak to two of them and bring them to you also, taking this opportunity. So let's take like 30 seconds to introduce ourselves.
I'm Roger. I work as a learning designer and facilitator, mainly focusing on leadership issues, group development, organizational transformation. Have done that in almost my whole life. It's a big passion of mine. I will do it till the day I die.
And I'm a copy of Roger. But a female. And I'm very similar things, and we've been working with a small company that isn't that small anymore, called Hyper Island. So we've grown that company from a small island in the southern archipelago of Sweden to a global company. And it's all about, really, really believing in people's potential to develop and trusting people to take lots of personal responsibility for the learning. And that's sort of the values and the thoughts behind the program that you've just been through, working with experience-based learning. So we'd like to revolutionize education or learning.
Okay, so it is highly recommended to go to Hyper Island website and look into it. I have done it and it looks brilliant work and it looks awesome work. For at least for the people who are watching this video and are interested in education, it is highly recommended. So we would like to know a little more about, because this video is for people who are not professionals into experiential learning, the idea of experiential learning. If you can please throw a little light on what experiential learning is and how is it different from the idea of education that in generally people have a perception of, that is classroom teaching.
Should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
If I just explain, there is a very simple model that we use that is called learning spiral. And I think it shows very concretely what experience-based learning is. So you can consider everything you do is a tangible experience, and you take some time actually after you've done something, you take some time to reflect upon what you actually did. And you include not only the head, you also include your feelings, intuition, broader perspective, and so on. So you just make sure to take some time and reflect upon what have happened, and you draw insights and learning from that. So it's some kind of process of generalizing. You might see, okay, I did in this way, but it didn't work. How can I do instead? Or I behaved in this way, it was not successful. Can I apply another behavior when I'm working with this person that might make the cooperation better? So you generalize, and then you are active. So you try out something new that you came up with related to the experiences you had, and then you have a new tangible experience, and then you do a reflection, and then you generalize. So it's kind of a constant learning going on. You want to add something to that? Or?
Just thinking from a neuroscience point of view, the latest research around the social brain, and that we're really social creatures, that we can really see that when we design learning experiences, that is in a strong social context, that it's sort of not convention about teacher to participants or students or pupils receiving. So it's moving away from sort of sending receiving concept to more making sure that we facilitate a strong interaction, a strong conversation. People can share their experiences and dialogue. And when we look at that from a neuroscience point of view, we can see that sort of the circuits or the way we take in information and keep it, and how we also make sure that we pick it up again, becomes much stronger if it's a social context, because then there's so many associations, so many perspectives of how I can get hold of the information and the knowledge again. If Roger and I have talked about it, for example, and shared, as you said before, how does this apply to me and my context? So creating learning experiences that is more reality-based, perhaps within an organization or within a group that really has a similar missions or challenges, then the knowledge sticks much better, and it can be much quicker made use of, from a neuroscience point of view.
I also think that another important aspect of experiential learning is learning by doing. So it's, I think at Hyper Island have been applying experiential learning for 20 years, and it has been to kind of a combination of theory and practice. So the practice part has been extremely important. So it is about learning by doing stuff, not only about reading about stuff. So it could be to, instead of only reading about how to make a strategy, you do a strategy, and then you also combine that with theoretical aspects of working with strategy, and then you withdraw learning based on the experiences of actually creating a strategy yourself. And I think that's also, it's fine. I also think that's you asked about what's the distinction between traditional learning and so on. So I think a big distinction is that you actually do stuff as well. You create something. You're not only reading about it or listening to someone talking theoretically or academically about it. And I think today in Sweden, many schools are starting to apply also learning by doing in combination with, because lots of research have also shown that that's extremely powerful.
I think another question, Roger and Osa, is that in a country like India, where we have such a scale of education, like lakhs of schools, crores of students, a general perception within people's and policymakers' minds is that if you put a structure, curriculum, teacher training, this is to be done like that, this is to be done like this, it seems to be a little more reliable. It seems to be a little more reliable. How much do you think is experiential learning as an idea reliable in such a scale when you do things? So although like we are I would also like to share that we are also doing it. We are in our community school that is located in Korea village in central India. We are doing it. We are also starting to work with neighboring 15 government schools now. But I just want your perspective. If you have seen schools applying it, what do you think about it?
I don't see it as a contradiction, because when it comes to the governmental principles and how we report the quality of our educations, they also request curriculums and decide outcomes and really clear goals for individuals. So it's more like the experiential learning is a methodology, and that we can see that if we apply that methodology, that propels people's development. So that what we said before about the communication, the information, and the knowledge sticks much deeper, much broader in your circuits in your brain. But it's also about people become much more ready to apply the things in reality. So we see the learning as the reality. So organizations or companies come in with specific briefs that the students work with. So I think it's about being real world ready to sort of hit the ground running with stuff. And even if it's different, we have slightly older participants, so from 20 and up. But I think even when we look at the experiments in Sweden when it comes to younger people, it's the social context is also about how do we behave towards one another. You know, it's about the group dynamics, about, you know, the interpersonal things. So it's about training the skills of being social and agreeing or having conflicts and you know, learning how to work really effectively and creatively together. And that can be applied on any age. So the quality and the, you know, the reporting, the guidelines is one thing, and then the balance of the methodology of making sure that the teacher in this day and age of internet and people having access to lots of information, the teacher is not the only source, not the only expert. Actually, the room is the smartest. So, you know, all the collective, all the students or participants in the room sharing is what, you know, makes people, you know, really, really ready.
Wonderful. Actually, it was the last question that I was going to ask, that how do we see this technology, which is the information technology, coming into the complete education scene? How are we seeing experiential learning turning towards its new direction with technology coming in? And you you already started. Seems like you forecast what I'm thinking.
Would you like to build on what I said? And then
Yeah,
we can see where
I had more information about the system thinking. Just want to add into that that Sweden as a country has 20 years back in time, they implemented a new system, a school system, which is a lot about experiential learning.
Oh.
And that is because vocational trainings or vocational education in many countries it's considered being lower than university and academic studies. But Sweden said, let's start a vocational system that is parallel to the university system, and we rather have an approach where we actually have students doing stuff, not only reading about stuff. So 1/3 of the program should actually be practical.
Oh.
And it could be even more practical if an educator would like to do that as well. And it has been existing for 20 years. And the outcome, the results are fantastic.
Oh.
You have much higher rates of people getting employed, graduating from these kind of courses, than people coming from university. Like the average, it's about 85-90% of all the programs around Sweden, they get a job within 6 months after they graduate. So I think it's...
Robert, just another thing to add to it, I would like to know, apart from employability, is there any other insight that you would like to add, like any kind of softer part of human beings, or any other which improvement in that area is observed?
Yeah, I think that was what sort of I mentioned before, that it's about the social skills of, you know, being able to work together, being able to have a little bit more self-awareness. I think, you know, with the technology and also the fast pace of developing the innovation and all of it, I think people really need to be, you know, a bit more self-aware so that we can work together and make use of everyone's perspective. So it's not, we need to sort of move away from the command and control. Otherwise, the team will be, you know, just as great as the one giving orders. If we see more it as a collective intelligence and making sure that everyone's competence and knowledge and experience is reflected in the actual work and the solutions of the team, then we also really need to see and embrace ourselves as, you know, social human beings and understanding what it means to create clarity around goals and clarity around how will we work together, the culture or structures, how will our meeting looks like, what is a constructive meeting, you know, what can we get out of that, and, you know, create engagement and inner motivation, rather than sort of get stuck in old ways of, conventional ways of doing that is about agreements and command and control and carrot and stick and all of that sort of belongs to a more industrial way of being. So that's one aspect of it, to, you know, really understand how do we work in the best possible way together.
Thank you. Thanks a
Can we do
lot.
another take on the technology?
Yes, we can do.
Yeah.
Like, let's go ahead and let's talk about how do you think this will change, and if you can like comment on developing, because you have a fair experience working with South Asian people and understanding of how South Asian problems and society work.
I think one thing absolutely change education with technology is that the access to information that you have yourself. There has been, I think, a dialogue and a debate going on in Sweden for quite long, the role of a teacher in future society or in society of today. And there are schools that I think are transforming and making teachers becoming more of a mentor or a coach rather than seeing themselves as a package of knowledge that should be transformed from one head to another. It's really, but that's
a wonderful explanation, I would say.
That's the old way of thinking, I think. But with technology, every pupil have access to the information themselves. They can learn as much as possible as they want to. They can learn outside school. So, I mean, is school today, is it something that are in a building? Or is it outside? Is it everywhere?
Where do we learn?
Where do we learn?
Yeah. So, and I think actually some kids, they learn more outside school than in school.
And
Completely.
probably know more about certain niche topics than the teachers. So I think what we're sort of trying to lobby for is that headmasters and teachers and other working with learning and education integrate much more about leadership and facilitation and process design, so that you see yourself as someone that enables learning rather than, as you say, then try to transfer expertise from one head to another.
Yeah, and what's popping up in my head is also that I mean, school from the very foundation should prepare people to be active in society, and then it should be relevant in order to what society look like. That's why Hyper Island, for a long time, strong components has been to, for instance, prepare students for living in a constant change, because the rapid of change, or change is really rapid, and it's increasing. It's going quicker and quicker. So maybe it's important to actually prepare people to live in such society than having maybe some subjects that were in the old school, because you can learn that anyway. So it's more about, I think this future school or school of today need to work more with attitudes and behaviors than subjects.
So this is extremely wonderful. See, as I told before, this conversation is driving itself. My next question was
We're so honored, so ambitious.
It was, I was just going to ask that how do you see as you said, role of teacher is changing. I was going to ask it, how is purpose of education changing along with it, with the time and increasing technology and increasing rate of change that is happening, and you have already got into it and answered it. So it was really nice, and thanks a lot for taking this time out, and it was a wonderful experience talking to you, and I hope all of those who are into education space, working as teachers, mentors, teacher trainers, or whatever, general people, parents, students, I hope this conversation will help you build an understanding about experiential learning. I once again recommend go see our website of Hyper Island. It is worth going through once. And thanks a lot, Asa. Thanks a lot, Roger.